Okay, I thought maybe I would go through the rods that I have and just briefly talk about each one. I'm not sure if you'd be really interested in what I have, because everybody's preferences for a rod are quite different than each other's. But I thought, it might be of some worth. If nothing else, then this video could act as a video for insurance purposes. But let's talk about some of the rods that I've got and why I have them and why I haven't sold them, or why I may sell them, what I don't like about them. And before we do that, probably I should clarify that what I like in a rod may not be what you like in a rod. My own preference for rods are typically more tip flex, with rod flex index right about 4.8 to 5, in that general ballpark. I like rods that have a very low or reasonably low rotational moment. They will cast a tight loop, they'll set the hook quickly, and then engage the fish quickly. I don't like rods where I'm slopping around. And that's probably because my streams are relatively narrow, higher gradient because they come through the Rockies. I don't fish a lot of meadow streams or spring creeks like there are in other parts of the country. Mine are mainly freestones. But all that said, let's talk about some of the rods. So this is my fly room, my man cave, whatever, and I've got these rods in various racks that I've put together over the years, and we'll just go through some of these. So over here in the corner is the Hellbender, and sitting next to it is the Mizuchi. Those are the two Dragontail rods that I've got sitting right here. I've got a Ragnarok up at my summer home, but these are the two Dragontail rods that I've got here. I really like both of them. The Hellbender is a little bit heavy. It certainly is a tip heavy rod, but it's certainly what I'd consider would be a power rod for larger fish or faster waters or heavier flies, whatever. I predominantly fish it in the 390 length, but occasionally with a 340 length. But I like the handle, and all in all, it's a great rod. The Mizuchi, well, I like it a lot as well. It's a very fast action rod. It works great for my streams and the fish that I fish. It is definitely not a finesse rod. That's not what it was designed to be. I like its handle length. Anyway, it's a great rod all around. These four rods are my Shimano rods. Shimano's interesting company. The consultant is Dr. Ishigaki, and he has a little bit different take on what a Tenkara rod should feel like. The tips are hollow, and so they're relatively stiff, and the rod flexes more in the mid to upper mid sections. So they really feel quite differently than Nissen rods or Oni rods, which are more traditionally tip flex rods and have solid tip sections. This one is the Pack Tenkara. I really like the Pack Tenkara. I don't backpack a lot with rods, so having a short rod means really nothing to me, but I really like this rod. You can fish it in about 310 to 330, 340 length. It's lightweight, it's got a great action. It engages fish pretty quickly on the hook set, but it's one of my favorite rods. This one is the Shimano NR, 36NR. It is definitely a fast action rod. I can't remember what its RFI is. I think it's like the higher fives, almost 6. But it's a great rod. It's excellent for nymphing, in my opinion. It's 360 centimeters, by the way. It's excellent for nymphing. It's a faster action rod. You can hook set quickly, engage the fish quickly, sort of like the Mizuchi. But it's not a finesse rod, although it does cast rather well. And I do use a number 3 level line with it, like I do with most of my rods. This is the Shimano 3438 ZL. It's really a nice rod. I really like the lengths. In my streams, 340 centimeters is a very common length to use for a rod. But then when the stream opens up like a beaver dam or maybe a little more open section, then you can zoom it out to 380 centimeters. It's got an action sort of similar to the pack Tenkara, and a little bit slower than the NR. Certainly feels slower when you cast it, although the numbers don't really bear that out that much. And this has been a rod that I've been favoring lately for a lot of my streams. This is the big boy, the Shimano, what is it called? The BG Tenkara 48 NV. So that's the large fish, sorry about that sconce being in the way there, but it's a long rod, 4.8 meters. It's tip heavy, as you would expect, but it's got a really long handle to help with that. It casts beautifully, and when you hook a fish, particularly one that's of good size, it is amazing. The whole rod engages, a big, long arc. I haven't felt out of control with any larger fish that I've hooked with it. I've really enjoyed it. It's a very pleasing rod. Okay, up here above my tying table, I've got some 4-meter rods. This is where my favorite 4-meter rods generally hang out, if they'll fit right here. I've got some other ones off here to the right. This one is the Nissen Oni Honru 395. I have it signed by Oni from when I got it and took it to one of the Oni schools in the past years. I've also modified the handle. I don't really like the handle shape on the standard or stock Oni 395. It just doesn't feel right to me. But who am I to question Oni? But I've changed the taper somewhat on a lathe with some sandpaper, and I like the way that it feels now. It's a great rod. It's one of my favorites. Excellent casting, excellent in fighting fish. There's really not a lot that I don't like about it. But it's a great rod. Next to it is probably one of my favorite, or my favorite 4-meter rod, and that's the TB40, the Tenkara Bum 40. It is, to me, like the holy grail of 4-meter rods. I'm not a big fan of the shape of the handle. I wish it was a little bit longer. And I think that the waist is a little bit too narrow, at least for me, but that's okay. I just filled it in with some tennis wrap, just a few wraps of it to meet my preference. But it's got a low RFI, it's got an excellent, it's got a low rotational moment, it's got an excellent RFI, and it's a little stiffer through the midsection than the 395, and to me it handles larger fish a little bit better. But it just depends on your preference and your style of fishing. I've got an empty spot there for another rod in the future, but I like the thought of having empty spots on some of my racks. It just psychologically does me good that I haven't filled those. This next one over here is the Daiwa Expert Tenkara L 45M. It's an interesting rod. It's a zoom rod, 4 meters and then 4.5, so it really got a usable length. Daiwa's level line rods are sort of a little whippy, if that makes any sense. Its RFI is like 3.6 or 7. I probably should have had these numbers out, but so I could be more accurate. But all in all, it's a great rod. I enjoy fishing with it. It is a little tip heavy. It's not nearly as I don't know if it's the materials or the design, but it's not nearly as magical as these two rods, as the Oni 395 or the TB40 as far as rotational moment goes. But it's still a lot of fun. It's a discontinued rod, so if it breaks, then that's that. It breaks, but I still fish it quite frequently. Next to it is my favorite Tanuki rod, and that's the original XL1. It's a fantastic rod. It's got a quite low rotational moment, as well as an excellent rod flex index. And I also fish with it quite often. Okay, this rack right here has 2 empty spots, but one of the rods is behind me on a table. This is the TB36. Of the 360 centimeter rods, it's my favorite. Amazingly enough, I don't fish it quite as much right now as I did a number of years ago. I am still enjoying experimenting with other rods, but it's got a modestly fast action. Its RFI is about 5. It's very lightweight. It's has an excellent balance, and I can hook a fish lightning fast, and I can control it in fast water, higher gradient streams, keep them out of the log jams, the willow root snags, all of that. It just works really well for me. This right here is would be called the Tenkara Bum Traveler 39. This is the Suntech GM 39 Kiru Special that became the Tenkara Bum 39. This rod was before the Tenkara Bum 39 came into existence, but they're essentially the same rod. It's also a fantastic rod. It's my number one travel rod. If I'm going to a place where I don't know the waters, I don't have any idea the size of the fish, what flies I'll use, all of that, I will take that rod with me. I've modified the handle. I just prefer to have a little bit more meat to the handle than what it originally came with. And then of course you can see here that the butt cap, the original butt cap broke off on stream, and I modified this one with some wood. But anyway, I've got that rod, and it's I use it all the time too, mainly to do contact nymphing, or use beadhead kibari. Next to it is the Daiwa Enshu LL36SF. It's absolutely fantastic rod. It's like 2-3 generations ago, Daiwa rod. So it's been out of production now for probably 10 years, I'd guess. But in the 300, this is a level line rod, in the 360 centimeter length, it is so smooth in casting. It's just beautiful. It's got an RFI in the 3s. I've got the longer length as well, but I really like this length, and have been using it a little bit lately on streams that have smaller fish. I'm sure it'll handle larger fish, but when you hook in a large fish with this rod, the entire rod bends, and you've got to have a lot of room to control the fish, or you're gonna, at least in my opinion, you're gonna get out of control. So let's go over here and see the other 360 centimeter rod that I've got. It's sitting right here, and that's the Kokoro 360. Again, an absolutely fantastic, oh, that's out of focus, there we go. Excellent 360 centimeter rod. I used it just the other day, and that's why I've got it laid out on the table drying. I disassemble all my rods after I fish them and just lay them out for a day or two. And so anyway, that's the 360 centimeter rods there. Let's go, oh, this rod here, you can see is a Western rod. That's a POW blank, one of the original POW blanks from the 1990s, early 90s. This is a 3-weight, so it's a 9-foot 3-weight rod. I got it as a blank because I couldn't afford a completed rod, and I bought all the components and I assembled it. This is one of the first rods that Western rods that I made. Put on the guides and the handle and the reel seat, etc. Anyway, I keep it around and cast with it on my lawn occasionally to remind me that I can still do that. Okay, over here in the corner are some of my longer rods, longer as in their nested length, not so much their fully extended length, although they are quite long. So this is where they fit the best. Anyway, this first one is the Nissen Airstage Hanro 450. It's an excellent rod for big water. It's single length, not a zoom rod. I don't like the handle shape so much. It's like a reverse half wells. So I've put some tennis wrap on the butt section to give me a little bit better anchor position for my hand. But I got that rod from a friend of mine, Jacob Johnson, and I'm really grateful that he was kind enough to get me that rod, because it was, at the time, and I think it still is, really hard to procure one of those. Next to it is another Daiwa rod. This one is the Master Tenkara. This is the double LT36. It's an absolutely fantastic rod. In many ways, unlike other 360 centimeter rods, because of its very long nested length. Obviously, you wouldn't I don't think you would backpack with that rod, but I don't mind taking it to streams. Its length doesn't bother me. It's out of production too, unfortunately. It wasn't really around that long, and I don't know why. It was very expensive, and maybe that was the reason. But I sort of suspect that it was probably the long nested length turns people off, which is a shame because it's magical. It's an amazing rod. I do have the LLL 36 Master, so the level line. This is for the taper. This one here is for the tapered line, but I prefer this one's casting feel over the level line one, but they're both excellent. Next to it is another rod that I really like. This is the Tenkara Prim Professional 400. I really wish this rod was more available in the United States. It sort of has a feel like the Shimano Mainstream, which was around when I first got into Tenkara, 2011, 2012, except this one's not a zoom rod. It's 400 centimeters only. It feels like a Shimano rod. It's excellently made. I really like it a lot for larger fish and for contact nymphing on larger waters. It's just hard to get because it comes from Russia. I think Vladivostok is where it comes from. Sergey is the gentleman who designed this rod and has it made. He's extraordinarily helpful, very friendly. It's just hard to get money into Russia because of the current political climate. This one here is the big Gamakatsu 5 meter Suimu EX. It's really good. It's a smooth casting rod for its length, tip heavy because it's so long. I mainly fish it and cast it in the 420 centimeter length, but if I hook a good sized fish, then I extend it out to the 5 meter length, which gives you a lot of leverage. And anyway, it's really fun to use. Again, I didn't really like the shape of the handle, so I've modified it with some tennis wrap. I'm not afraid to do that on any particular rod. I think maybe you saw that on the Kokoro. I've modified that just a little bit with tennis wrap. You know, they're my rods, and I want to make sure that they feel right in my hand and the way that I cast. So I've modified them. Okay, and then this rack over here has another Daiwa rod. This one is the it's probably not in focus. The LT, the Enshu LT39SF. It's of the same generation as this Daiwa rod, but this one is made for 390 centimeters, and it's made for tapered line, so it's got a much faster action in the 6s of RFI. It in the past was one of the preferred large fish rods, and it's out of production. It's relatively hard to find, but I've got one. I haven't fished it much, so I don't really have many comments on it at this time. This rod is a Nissen. This is a zero sum 400 7.3. I like the 7.3 rods for most of the Nissen rod lines, particularly the zero sum or Royal Stage. The 6.4s are a little soft for my preference. That doesn't mean they're bad rods. It's just not my preference. But this one is a good rod. Of all these rods that you see on the wall here that I've introduced you to, if I was going to sell any of them, I'd sell the zero sum. It's a fantastic rod. I like fishing with it, but it's somewhat redundant in my quiver, and so I could sell it and it wouldn't really break my heart. But for now, I'll keep it around and use it. These rods here are the Airstage Fujiru line of rods. This one is the 335.5. These two are the 410, 6.4 and 5.5. And then these here are the 360, 6.4 and 5.5. I like them all. The little 330 5.5 is amazingly smooth. It's a beautiful rod. I don't fish it that much because if I hook into a 14-inch trout in fairly fast water, and that thing bends all the way down to the handle, and I feel out of control. I'm sure many of you would do just fine, but it makes me feel out of control. So I don't fish it that much. But on small fish streams, I've used it. The 6.4, 410 and 5.5 I use all the time. They're a little tip heavy. The handle design makes it so it's a little bit harder to hold it. And I really can't modify the handles very effectively like I've done with some of the other ones to give me a better anchor point. But they're really good. That 6.4, 410, it's saved me a number of times. It casts a line really well. It's great in the wind, even though it's a long rod. I can throw a line, I can hook larger fish very quickly and overpower them quite quickly. The 5.5s, these two 5.5s, they're just smooth. I don't know what to say about them. That they're, in my mind, they're every bit as smooth as any Tenkara rod made out there. They are just fantastic, and I really like them. The 360 6.4 is my preferred nymphing rod on smaller to medium-sized streams. This one here doesn't go with these. This one is just a case that I made with an extra rod tube I have sitting around. But this is the little Tenru TF32 TA. I'm not going to take it out, but it's a really fun little rod. And as far as pocket rods go, I guess as you'd consider this a pocket rod, I really like this one, and I've had a lot of fun with it. So anyway, those are the rods I have on my wall. But I've got some other rods down here in the corner, and let's go talk about those. So these are rods that I have that I don't use very often, or that I've got as backups. I've got some tubes here. This is a 4-inch and a 3-inch. It's mainly what I transport my rods in. This is a 2-inch. This one here is got all my spare parts in, except for the big Nissen Airstage Hanru 450. This is what its spare parts are in. There we go. But I keep all my spare parts in this. But some rods I don't have spare parts for, but I have backups. So let me get down here. So for instance, this is a Gamakatsu 5-meter Suimu EX. I've got 2 of them. This is the backup rod. And here's the Daiwa Master Tenkara LL36. That's the level line version of the other rod that was up there. I just got it in its original packaging. This one is This is a Shimano BG48. Absolutely fantastic rod. This is the longest rod that I've got, and about as long as I want to go. I can cast it one-handed, but it works best two-handed. It is so smooth. I think it's out of production now, but it's such an excellent rod. I didn't really want to sell it at the time. This is a Daiwa rod. This is the Enshu LL41 SF, and I fish with it from time to time as well. Absolutely smooth, beautiful, fantastic rod. Here's a Traveler 44, Tenkara Traveler 44, similar to the 39. It's an excellent nymphing rod all around. It just gives you a little bit more length and can be used as spare parts for the 39, but I haven't needed that yet. This rod is the Shimano 10. It's 380 centimeters. I've had it for many years. I fish it from time to time. Very smooth rod. Its RFI is in the 3s, but just a joy to use. But it's out of production and quite rare. I haven't seen them for sale on the used market in Japan, so I think they're quite a collector's item for those who have them. Here's my backup Oni 395. This one I haven't modified. This is in its original condition, and I just have it sitting around in case my other one breaks. I've got a backup Tenkara Bum 40, and I've got a backup Tenkara Bum 36. Is that going to come into focus? Come on, right there. Okay, sitting right there. So again, I've got some backup rods instead of parts, and I don't know if I really need them, but that's just my personality type, and maybe I'll end up selling them because I will feel that I don't need to really have those backup rods. This is a Daiwa rod. This is the, what is this? Still in its original box. That's the LT 44 SF. So another big fish rod that is out of production, but fantastic rod for larger fish, and of course Japanese quality. Here's the pack Tenkara. This is my backup. I've got an extra pack Tenkara, so I've got two of those. And this is my backup Tenkara Prim Professional 400. And then this is the 318 version of that rod. Again, fantastic. Down here in the corner is the Wasatch Tenkara rods T-Hunter. I keep it around. I don't fish it very much, but if I'm going to get into really large fish, you know, maybe accidentally hook a carp, or I've got some streams, some tailwaters where the rainbows can get in the mid 20s in length and be, you know, 6 to 8 pounds, just really big fish in relatively fast moving water. Then I'll use the T-Hunter because Ruben has promised that that thing won't break, and I believe him. I believe that it won't break. I've got a Anglo & Company Wasabi 32 right here. It's in a Tenkara Times tube that I've got one of those, and then here's my Wasabi 36, and I use these from time to time. And then back here are my two other Oni rods. So this one is an original Oni rod that has a foam handle that Masami designed and made himself by hand. These are not like the production rods that you get now. This has a totally different length provider. I don't believe it was Nissen. I think it was Mr. Abe rod. I could be wrong with that. I might hear from John Vetterli if I am wrong. But it's considerably heavier. It's 105 grams, considered heavier than the Nissen blanks that are in production now for the Type 1. But its balance is just magical. I use it, I don't really fish with it right now. I use it to cast in the backyard, and it's just great fun. This is also an original Oni rod. That is the original Mr. Abe blank. Again, not one of the production blanks now, but this one has a bamboo handle, and I'm not really going to take those out to show you, but again, I'll admit those are collector's items, and I'll just keep playing with those, but I don't really fish with them. And let's see what else. So in this big one here, I've got a Baby Rodzilla 6'4", that is fun to use on small streams that are really brushy, and I end up whacking the branches a lot. But that's about it. Am I forgetting anything else? I don't think so. So those are my rods. I've sold a lot of rods over the years, and the ones that I've sold for the most part are ones that I just ended up not connecting with and not really fishing with as often. I had to sort of consciously say, okay, I'm going to take this rod. But these ones that I have here, I could grab any of them and fish pretty much any place and feel quite comfortable. I'll freely admit I have too many rods to really use on that frequent of a basis, but I have enjoyed rotating through rods, and will continue to do so, although I may end up selling one or two of these rods over the next little while, but I don't know, we'll see, maybe not. Anyway, that's my quiver, or my collection. Let me know if you have any comments or questions, and we'll see what rods in the future pique my fancy and get me to buy them. I think that I'm not going to be buying many rods for quite some time, but there are one or two that have been announced that I'm sure that I'll end up getting. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching.